Hi, everybody. Jim Spellman here in Minneapolis, Minnesota, covering the trial of Derek Chauvin, who is accused of murdering George Floyd. The whole world has been watching this case, and the closing arguments have wrapped up today here. So it will soon be in the hands of the jury. So I'm going to set the scene here for this entire trial and what will be in the minds of the jury. This is a city that is bracing for the verdict. You will see things like this everywhere around the city, boarded up buildings, boarded up businesses, preparing for protests that could well turn violent. So today we got closing arguments. We're going to walk across here to the courthouse. When you take a look here, this imposing building is the courthouse. This is where the trial has taken place and where the jurors will work when they're deliberating to come to their decision. So first we heard from the prosecutors in this case, and they've argued a couple of main things. First of all, that the cause of death is very simple. It's the 9.5 minutes that Derek Chauvin was kneeling on George Floyd. And they also portrayed a very human picture of George Floyd, of this person, a person with flaws. They admit that he had problems with drugs and other problems, but not a person who deserved to die that day. The defense has tried to raise questions about the cause of death, bringing into this picture that they're trying to paint the fact that George Floyd had drugs in his system, the fact that he had a heart condition. And they've also tried to portray Derek Chauvin as a police officer who was following his training and doing his job. So both sides tried to bring their various points home in their closing arguments today. The prosecution rather, saying this wasn't policing, this was murder. And they called 45 witnesses, the prosecution did, and one of the attorneys today asked the jurors to remember what he's calling the 46th witness, what he calls common sense. He wants them to bring that into the jury room with them. Now, what they actually are going to decide is complicated. They will decide innocence or guilt, but they have three separate charges to choose from: second-degree murder, third-degree murder, and second-degree manslaughter. Very technical differences between all of them could lead to a maximum of 40 years in prison, down to 10 years or less in prison. And the standard here, as in trials in the United States, is reasonable doubt. They have to decide whether there is reasonable doubt, not extraordinary doubt, not a billion to one chance that something could have happened, but reasonable doubt. And it requires all 12 jurors to come to a unanimous decision. If not, it's what's known as a hung jury, and then what leads to what's known as a mistrial, and the state could have to decide all over again about whether they're going to prosecute Derek Chauvin for this case. The jury is made up of 9 women and 5 men. 4 of the jurors are black, 8 are white, and 2 are biracial. The city is bracing itself for what could happen. Take a look at some of this. So this is a courthouse. Generally, there are people coming and going from here for major cases, minor cases. And now look at this. They have these barriers up. They call these Jersey walls. Look at this razor wire in the middle here, and then another layer of this fencing. Come down here, you can take a look. Military vehicles like this, not only around the courthouse, but around the whole city. There are National Guardsmen stationed in various neighborhoods, and it's been tense. In fact, on Sunday, apparently there was some type of drive-by shooting. People took shots at the National Guard. Nobody was. Hang on, step back here. Excuse us. Nobody was seriously hurt in that. Thankful, but it shows you how tense the situation is. What we're hearing from leaders here is they respect the rights of people to protest. What they want to avoid is more of the violence that we've seen sporadically since last summer. But also, remember, this is a city that is still reeling from the death of Dante Wright just last week in Brooklyn Center, a town very close to here. So things are definitely on edge. And we'll take one last look down here at the main entrance to the Hennepin County courthouse. We know that U.S. President Joe Biden has been consulting with African American leaders, including leaders of the Congressional Black Caucus, trying to figure out the best way that he can participate in trying to bring healing to the country, depending on what kind of verdict comes out and what kind of reaction there is to it. I can just tell you, though, it's stunning to see this kind of military hardware in a Midwestern American city in the middle of a courthouse in the heart of downtown. We'll be watching this closely for the verdict. We'll be watching this closely for the aftermath, as will everyone here in Minneapolis, across the country and around the world. So Jim Spellman signing off from Minneapolis, Minnesota.